Several days ago, I put out a video talking about the fact that senior citizens are leaving the state of Florida by a lot, in droves. I would not call it a mass exodus, but definitely a lot of folks leaving the state. And I got some pushback from some of you, as I always do. Not all of you, but some of you will go on ChatGPT and start typing in. And if you did not know this, like garbage in, garbage out, we have to remember this. You can get ChatGPT to almost say anything you want it to. And a couple of you sent me these long, soliloquies saying that I'm completely wrong and Florida, people are still coming to Florida in record amounts and more people are moving to the state than leaving the state. So let me just touch on this for a little minute. All right, so let's look at what these numbers actually are, because we always want to deal with what they actually are. We don't have 2024 numbers out yet, obviously, because we're just ending 2024. But according to the National Association of Realtors Trend Reports, so this is for 2023, but we're getting it in 2024, 637,000 people moved to Florida from other states in 2023. But the state has also lost 511,000, its largest outflow of residents ever. 637,000 in, 511,000 out. That's all ages, but when you break this down, it's predominantly senior citizens. It's like over 80%. Now, again, that's because that's mostly what's in Florida, but that is very significant. I'm going to repeat to you the largest outflow of residents ever. So I'm not trying to prove anybody wrong. I'm just telling you these are facts, and you can go through life telling yourself, we'll just say alternative facts. I know people like to say that. You can tell yourself alternative facts. They're not factual. And if you're making financial decisions based upon that, I don't know that that's a great move. All right, let's move on to the topic for today. So today we're going to be talking about Fort Myers. Now, as you know, I have a house in Estero. That's the main house that I have. Many of you have asked me if I have rentals, yes, I do. There are other things that I utilize in Florida as investment property as well. So today we're going to be talking about Fort Myers. So let me just give you a little recap. When the COVID years hit, some cities saw enormous growth. One of those cities was Fort Myers. Incredible growth in Fort Myers. And I've done a video on this before where I think people sort of thought that Fort Myers, because of its proximity to Naples, was going to be like living in Naples, except less expensive, and it wasn't. It wasn't. And people walked away feeling like they kind of bought themselves the consolation prize. And what started happening was at about that 3-year mark, people were like, no, we're done. This isn't good. I can't get to the beach. Then the beach completely got decimated by Hurricane Ian, but already it was so difficult to get over that bridge through the traffic. When I say an hour and a half just at a crawl pace, I am not kidding you. You'd be better off to walk 5 miles than to try to get in that traffic from either direction. And then as they started to try to rebuild from Ian 2 years later, then you have 2024, and there's those storms that come through and undo the berms they tried to create, undo some of the buildings they started to put up. And a lot of people just felt like, what are we doing here? Sanibel Island, yes, you can get out there, but it's nothing like it used to be. And many people that lived on Fort Myers used to go to Sanibel all the time because it's really not that far. Depending on where you live in Fort Myers, it might be a half-hour drive. So people started to feel like, this isn't Naples. This isn't even good. What is there even to do here? It's sort of like, it's similar to Cape Coral, in my opinion. except dissimilar. You do have a downtown in Fort Myers. Some people don't go there because they don't find it to be safe. So, and you can check the crime. You should always check the crime where you're going to consider living or renting. That's just common sense. You should go online, check the crime. But people just felt like they weren't happy with the choice they made and they weren't living the way they thought that they could. So you started to see a lot of people putting their properties up for sale in Fort Myers. The problem is if you bought during the COVID years, you are upside down. So let's talk about what we've got here. So the latest news report that just came out last week, I'm going to read this to you. This is from NBC2. The Florida Chamber of Commerce. Now, by the way, before I go further, somebody's going to say,
"Oh, NBC, I don't believe anything they say."
This is coming from the Chamber of Commerce of Florida. So before we do that, keep that in mind. The Florida Chamber of Commerce says since 2018, Florida has seen an increase of 2.17 million new residents. That's the second highest in the nation. So since 2018, not for the year of 2018, from then to now. However, the first time in a decade, a new report is revealing the state's net migration has taken a dive. According to the Chamber's latest migration trend report, Florida gained 126,008 net new residents from state to state migration. That's half of 2022. That is half of what they saw in 2022. So the highest group of individuals that are leaving are those that are between 20 and 29. The second highest group that's leaving is between 30 and 39. So the young people are also leaving the area, and that is why you're seeing such an exodus out of the area, because when you have the seniors who are the main component of Florida, and then you have the younger folks that came trying to make a life and they're leaving, that's pretty darn significant. Now, you might be somebody that's saying, well, hold on, Barrett, 2022, that's still the COVID years. Yeah, it is still the COVID years. But if many, the predominance of people that moved here during COVID move out, that will create a vacuum. That's going to create a scenario where if you overpaid during that time frame and now you've got to get out from under it, and right now there's already way too many homes on the market, that is problematic. I'm going to pop a statistic up for you right here. So look at this. Look at this. Punta Gorda, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, they group that together. These are the areas that are seeing the reduction in home prices. Now, I have been telling you this all through 2024. If you watch my channel, this is not news for you. You're saying, you know what, Barrett, you're right, and you told us that, and you told us that if we like Cape Coral, if we like Fort Myers, if we like Punta Gorda, wait until 2025 and that's going to be your time. And I continue to say that, and I continue to prove that to you, because I am telling you, if these are areas that are appealing to you, that will be your time in my opinion, 2025 off season. So think April 2025. If you're thinking about buying in Florida, that's going to be the time frame that I think you can really start to get a great buy. Right now, a lot of the builders, I think, in preparation for that, because they don't know what the basement's going to look like. They don't know how low those prices are going to go, and they know from back in the 2005 to 2008 years, they know how difficult that can become. So I think they're trying to get ahead of it, and they're saying, okay, we've got our pricing pretty stabilized. Let's offer golf carts. Let's offer rate buy downs. Let's offer closing cost credits. They're doing that because that will help them maintain that higher purchase price, because in my opinion, April 2025, I think, we don't know. Are they going to see $100,000 drop? Maybe. I don't know. So I think they don't know either, and they're trying to get in front of it. So when you add people who cannot afford to be here, they overbought in the COVID years, now they can't sell because they paid too much. They're going to have to take a loss. They've been deemed, we're talking about Fort Myers, they've been deemed a flood zone because a lot of Fort Myers got rezoned, and now many people that were not in a flood zone before are in a flood zone now. I can think of 4 sellers that I have had in 2024 that bought in what would be considered FHA price points. So I'm talking about townhomes, small homes, things that are like 300, 350,000, right in that range. They bought on a pretty tight budget, wanted to move to Florida from other states, and their area is now flood zone. They also have to put a roof on. They can't afford to do either, and they certainly can't afford to do both. So as that happens, you're going to see people that are definitely taking a loss in their properties. We're seeing more and more short sales in Fort Myers and Cape Coral. Look at the data right here. That is very significant. So the reason that I wanted to bring this to you is not to scare anyone, is because if you're thinking about selling, we might want to get that property on the market, because if at least right now you know what things are looking like, but if we punt in the hopes that it's going to get better, and we're in these areas over here, it's probably not going to get better. So my suggestion, sometimes, many times, depending on where your home is get that home on the market. And let's at least try to mitigate the loss. Let's at least try to stop the bleed, so to speak. So that's why I bring you these videos, so that you can make an educated decision on what to do. If you turn a blind eye to some of what's going on financially, it can really be a big mistake.